Fleet Commander Varrock Tilani stood on the observation deck of the Hegemony flagship Unfaltering Dominion, his 4 eyes scanning the tactical display with growing irritation. His upper right eye twitched, a nervous habit he'd developed during his centuries of military service. "Status report," he demanded, his voice carrying the distinctive metallic resonance of the Axoni race. Lieutenant Shrell glided forward on her gravity disk, her tentacles manipulating the holographic interface with practiced precision. "The human diplomatic vessel remains in position, sir. They have maintained their defensive posture but have taken no aggressive action." Varrock snorted, the sound echoing through his breathing apparatus. "How very human of them. Still clinging to protocol even as we surround their pathetic colony." The bridge crew exchanged nervous glances. Everyone in the hegemony knew about humanity's peculiar behavioral patterns. They were unpredictable, surprisingly resourceful, and possessed an alarming tendency to achieve the impossible when cornered. "Sir," ventured Strategic Officer Pel Durath, his scaled skin shimmering under the bridge lights, "perhaps we should consider their proposal? The mining rights they have offered for the Epsilon sector would satisfy the High Council's demands without risking." "Without risking what, Officer Durath?" Varrock turned slowly, all 4 eyes focusing intensely on the younger officer. "A fight? Are you suggesting the mighty Axoni hegemony should fear these mammals?" Durath swallowed visibly. "No, Commander. I merely suggest that the cost-benefit analysis favors negotiation in this instance." "The cost-benefit analysis." Varrock repeated the words with undisguised contempt. "I have studied humans for 50 cycles, Officer Durath. Their history, their psychology, their pitiful attempts at warfare. They are bluffing. They always bluff right before they surrender." Varrock turned back to the tactical display, expanding the view to show the entire Taurus system. The human colony world of New Arcturus hung suspended in the projection, a blue-green jewel orbiting a yellow star. Their defenses were modest: a handful of orbital platforms, a small fleet of outdated cruisers, and somewhere between 5 and 7 million colonists on the surface. "Sir," Lieutenant Shrell interrupted his thoughts, "we are receiving another transmission from the human vessel." Varrock waved a clawed hand dismissively. "Put it through. Let's hear what new concessions they are offering." The holographic display shifted, and the image of a human female appeared. Commander Varrock had encountered enough humans to recognize this one as middle-aged by their standards, perhaps in her 5th or 6th decade. Her hair was cropped short, an efficient military style colored a reddish-brown. Her uniform bore the insignia of the United Earth Defense Force. "Fleet Commander Varrock," she began, her tone unnervingly calm. "This is Admiral Elena Koshiro of the UADF. I'm contacting you one final time to urge you to withdraw your forces from New Arcturus space." Varrock let out a laugh that sounded like metal scraping against stone. "Admiral Koshiro, your persistence is admirable if misguided. The Axoni hegemony has claimed the Taurus system by right of prior discovery. Your colony exists in violation of hegemony law. However, we are prepared to be merciful. Surrender New Arcturus, and we will permit your colonists to evacuate with their personal belongings." The human admiral's expression didn't change. Not a flicker of fear, not a hint of resignation. Just that same, steady gaze that Varrock found increasingly irritating. "Fleet Commander," she replied, "New Arcturus has been a recognized human settlement for 27 years. We have documentation of our survey teams arriving here 32 years ago. Your claim of prior discovery is factually incorrect." Varrock flexed his claws. "Your documentation means nothing to the Hegemony Council. Our claim stands." "Then we have a problem," the human said simply, "because we are not leaving." Something in her tone made the spines along Varrock's back stiffen. He leaned forward, all four eyes narrowing. "You have observed our fleet, Admiral. You have scanned our weapons capabilities. You know you cannot win this confrontation." For the first time, the human's expression changed. Not to fear, as Varrock expected, but to something far more disturbing, a small, almost imperceptible smile. "Commander Varrock, we have been talking for 3 days now. I have explained our position. I have provided evidence of our prior claim. I have offered reasonable compromises, and you have rejected all of them, because they are inadequate," Varrock snapped. "The hegemony does not compromise with lesser species." Admiral Koshiro nodded slowly. "I understand now. In that case, Commander Varrock, I believe we are done talking." Before Varrock could respond, the transmission ended. Strategic Officer Durath looked up from his console, alarm evident in his expression. "Sir, what does that mean?" "We are done talking." Varrock dismissed the concern with a wave. "It means they are ready to surrender, of course. Prepare boarding parties. We will begin with their diplomatic vessel as a show of force." Commander Lieutenant Shrell interrupted, her voice uncharacteristically urgent. "I'm detecting energy signatures from the far side of the planet. New contacts appearing." Varrock spun toward the tactical display. "Impossible. Our scouts reported their entire defense fleet is already deployed." The holographic representation of the Taurus system flickered, then updated. New markers appeared, emerging from behind New Arcturus. Not the handful of ships Varrock had expected, but dozens. Then hundreds. "Classification?" he demanded, a cold feeling spreading through his thorax. "UDF warships, sir," Shrell reported, her tentacles working frantically across the controls. "Destroyer class, cruiser class, and, sir, I'm reading 5 Dreadnought-class vessels among them." Varrock stared at the display in disbelief. "That's impossible. Human dreadnoughts are assigned to their core systems. They would never deploy so many to a frontier colony." "Sir." Durath's voice had grown quiet. "Sensors are also detecting multiple FTL signatures. More ships are arriving." The bridge fell silent as the tactical display continued to update, showing human warships pouring into the system from all directions. Not dozens now, but hundreds. Not a colony defense fleet, but what appeared to be a substantial portion of the entire United Earth Defense Force. This is a trap," Varrock whispered, his confidence evaporating like morning dew under twin suns. Commander Lieutenant Shrell said, her voice barely audible, "We are receiving another transmission." "Audio only." "He put it through," Varrock ordered, hating the tremor in his voice. Admiral Koshiro's voice filled the bridge, still eerily calm, but now tinged with something else, something predatory. "Commander Varrock, perhaps I should have been more clear. When I said we were done talking, I wasn't announcing our surrender. I was informing you that the diplomatic phase of our interaction had concluded." A pause, just long enough for Varrock to feel his pulse quickening. "You see, Commander, one thing your intelligence reports apparently failed to mention is that New Arcturus isn't just any colony. It's where many of our veterans choose to retire, including a significant number of our flag officers." Another pause. "So when you threatened their homes, their families, their grandchildren, well, they made some calls. To old friends. To former squadmates. To the ships they once commanded." Varrock felt his breathing apparatus working overtime as he stared at the tactical display, watching as the human fleet assembled into an unmistakable attack formation. "You have exactly 30 minutes to withdraw all hegemony forces from this system," Admiral Koshiro continued. "After that, we will remove you ourselves. And, Commander, unlike you, we don't make empty threats." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge of the unfaltering Dominion in stunned silence. "Orders, sir?" Lieutenant Shrell finally asked, her voice small in the cavernous command center. Varrock T. Lani, fleet commander of the mighty Axoni hegemony, who had conquered 7 species and annexed dozens of worlds, found himself without words. All his life, he had been taught that humans were weak, that they relied on diplomacy because they lacked the courage for true warfare. Now, as he stared at the overwhelming force arrayed against his fleet, he realized he had catastrophically misunderstood humanity's approach to conflict. They didn't negotiate out of weakness. They negotiated because they preferred to avoid unnecessary bloodshed. But when the talking stopped, "Prepare the fleet for immediate withdrawal," Varrock ordered, his voice hollow. "All ships, maximum speed." As the bridge crew rushed to comply, Strategic Officer Durath approached cautiously. "Sir, the High Council will demand an explanation." Varrock didn't take his eyes off the tactical display, watching as the human fleet continued to grow, ship after ship arriving to defend a mere colony with a force that could challenge the entire hegemony. "Tell them," Varrock said quietly, "that we encountered a fundamental truth about humans today." "Sir?" When humans say they are done talking," Varrock replied, his 4 eyes blinking in synchronized distress, "that's when you should start worrying." The unfaltering Dominion shuddered as its engines engaged, beginning the retreat that would forever stain Varrock's record. But as the tactical display showed the human fleet holding position, allowing them to leave without firing a single shot, he couldn't help but feel he was getting off easy. Because now he understood what the intelligence reports had missed. Humanity's true strength wasn't in their weapons or numbers, but in the eerie, terrifying calm that fell when their commanders decided that words had failed. And in that moment, as his mighty warship fled from a colony he had dismissed as insignificant, the fleet commander Varrock T. Lani silently vowed never to be on the receiving end of those words again. "We are done talking." Perhaps the most chilling phrase in the galaxy. 6 standard cycles had passed since the humiliating retreat from the Taurus system. 6 cycles of disgrace, demotion, and whispered mockery. Varrock T. Lani, once the prestigious fleet commander of the Axoni hegemony, now served as a mere security consultant on the frontier station Vigilant Outpost, positioned at the very edge of hegemony space. Another fascinating day of watching dust particles accumulate on sensor arrays, Varrock muttered to himself as he shuffled through the cramped monitoring chamber. His uniform, once adorned with medals and insignias of rank, now bore only the simple markings of a civilian contractor. "You should consider yourself fortunate, T. Lani," remarked Zep Norvac, his sole companion during the graveyard shift. Norvac was young, ambitious, and blissfully ignorant of the political quicksand that had swallowed Varrock's career. Most officers who fail the hegemony so spectacularly end up as nutrient paste for the agricultural domes. Varrock glared at him with all 4 eyes. "Your historical knowledge is as impressive as your tact, Norvac." "Just saying," Norvac shrugged, his scale ridges rippling with emotion. "The High Council must think you still have some value. Or they enjoy watching me rot in this celestial garbage scow," Varrock countered, turning his attention back to the monitoring station. The screens showed nothing but empty space, as they had for months. This outpost monitored a sector bordering unclaimed territory, a void so unremarkable that even pirates avoided it. The comm unit chimed unexpectedly, causing both Axoni to straighten. "Incoming transmission," Norvac announced, sounding almost excited at the break in routine. "Origin unknown, but it's using a diplomatic frequency." Varrock felt a prickle of unease crawl along his spine. Unknown origin using diplomatic channels? That's not standard procedure for any hegemony vessel. "Maybe it's traders," Norvac suggested, already reaching for the accept control. "The independent merchants sometimes use outdated protocols," Varrock began, but Norvac had already activated the receiver. The holographic display sputtered to life, and Varrock felt his blood run cold. The face that materialized was unmistakably human, though not one he recognized. This male specimen appeared older, with facial hair peppered gray and white, and eyes that held the same unnerving steadiness he remembered from Admiral Koshiro. "Greetings, Vigilant Outpost," the human said pleasantly. "This is Captain Gabriel Acosta of the UEDF vessel Harbinger, requesting permission to approach and discuss a matter of mutual concern." Norvac looked confused. "UEDF? Is that a trading consortium?" Varrock grabbed his junior colleague by the shoulder, his claws digging in perhaps harder than necessary. "United Earth Defense Force," he hissed. "Humans? Humans." The color drained from Norvac's scales. "Humans? Here? But this sector is nowhere near their territory." Varrock released him and straightened his posture, attempting to summon dignity from the ashes of his former authority. "Captain Acosta," he addressed the waiting human. "This is Security Consultant Varrock Tilani. Your presence in this sector violates multiple territorial agreements. State your purpose immediately." Recognition flickered in the human's eyes. "Fleet Commander Tilani, I wasn't expecting to encounter you here. Though I suppose Security Consultant is the appropriate title now?" The casual reference to his demotion stung, but Varrock maintained his composure. "My rank is irrelevant to this discussion. You are in hegemony space without authorization." Captain Acosta nodded agreeably. "Technical violation, yes. However, we are here on a matter that concerns both our peoples. We have detected unusual energy signatures from the Valkyr Nebula, approximately 3 light-years from your position. Our scientists believe it may indicate the presence of an abandoned precursor outpost." Varrock's heart skipped several beats. The precursors, the mysterious ancient civilization whose technological remnants were scattered throughout the galaxy, were the holy grail of scientific and military research. A single functioning precursor artifact could advance a species' technological capabilities by centuries. "You expect me to believe," Varrock said slowly, "that humans would voluntarily share information about a precursor discovery with the hegemony? After our previous interactions?" Captain Acosta smiled, and something about that smile sent warning signals cascading through Varrock's nervous system. "We are not sharing this out of altruism, Consultant Tilani. The energy signatures indicate potentially hazardous instabilities, and if the outpost contains weapons systems or power sources that have degraded over millennia, they could pose a threat to both human and Axoni worlds in this sector. We are proposing a joint investigation team." Norvac suddenly found his voice. "Sir, if there's even a chance he's telling the truth." "Mute audio," Varrock commanded, and the communication system obediently silenced their transmission to the human ship. "Norvac, use your brain. Why would humans come to us with this information? They could simply investigate themselves and claim any technology they find." "Unless they are telling the truth about the danger," Norvac argued. "Or unless they need something from us. Access codes to hegemony space, perhaps, or knowledge of Axoni detection systems to avoid triggering defensive arrays." Varrock considered this. The young officer might be naive, but he wasn't entirely wrong. "Or it's a trap," he added grimly. "Revenge for our attempt on New Arcturus." "With a single ship?" Norvac looked skeptical. "Scans show the Harbinger is a light cruiser, formidable but hardly an invasion force." Varrock stared at the patiently waiting human captain, memories of the humiliating retreat from Taurus burning in his mind. "Resume audio," he finally ordered. "Captain Acosta, your request requires authorization from Hegemony Command. I will forward your proposal and coordinates. Until then, maintain your position at the border of our space." Of course, the human agreed easily. "We will hold position and await your response." Acosta out. As the transmission ended, Norvac looked at his superior with obvious confusion. Sir? Hegemony Command will take days to respond, if they bother at all. We are not exactly a priority outpost. Precisely, Varrock nodded, his mind racing. Which gives us time. Time for what? Varrock turned all four eyes on his subordinate. Time to investigate ourselves. If there truly is a precursor outpost within range of our patrol vessel, we will secure it for the hegemony before the humans can interfere. But that would violate direct protocols. We are supposed to report and wait for specialized teams, Norvac protested. And by then the humans will have stripped the outpost bare, Varrock countered. This is my chance, Norvac. My chance to redeem myself in the eyes of the High Council. To reclaim my rank and honor. Norvac looked uncertain. And if it's a trap, our patrol vessel is well armed and has stealth capabilities. We will approach with caution and scan thoroughly before committing. If it is a trap, Varrock's mandibles clicked together in grim determination. Then we will finally see what humans are truly capable of when they are done talking. 12 hours later, Varrock and Norvac guided their patrol vessel, the Swift Judgment, through the swirling gases of the Valkyr Nebula. Multicolored cosmic dust parted before their bow, creating an almost mystical path through the stellar nursery. The energy signatures are getting stronger, Norvac reported from the sensor station. Definitely artificial, and the pattern matches known precursor emission spectra. Varrock felt a surge of triumph. The humans were telling the truth. There is something here. Sir, I'm also detecting unusual radiation levels. The human captain might have been right about the instabilities as well. Can you localize the source? Varrock demanded, leaning over Norvac's station. Yes, it's wait. Norvac frowned at his display. That's odd. I'm picking up a new signal. It's a ship signature. Moving on an intercept course. Varrock slammed his fist on the console. A harbinger. I knew it was a trap. No, sir. It's not the human vessel. This signature is. It's not matching any known configuration in our database. Before Varrock could respond, the nebula ahead of them seemed to ripple and distort. A massive shape emerged from the multicolored gases, a vessel unlike anything Varrock had ever seen. Its hull gleamed with an oily iridescence that seemed to bend light around it, and its form was all wrong, a violation of known engineering principles. By the first egg, Norvac whispered. What is that? The answer came in the form of a thunderous impact as something struck their ship, sending both Axoni tumbling across the bridge. Warning klaxons blared as systems reported multiple breaches. We are being boarded, Norvac shouted, scrambling for the weapons locker. Varrock pulled himself up, dazed but functional. There was no boarding craft, no docking procedure. The explanation for this impossibility arrived moments later as the bridge doors slid open. The creature that stepped through bore only the vaguest resemblance to a bipedal form. Its body seemed to shift and flow, as if struggling to maintain coherence in normal space. Where a face should be, there was only a swirling vortex of prismatic light. Precursor? Norvac gasped, raising his plasma rifle with trembling hands. The creature tilted what might have been its head. When it spoke, the sound seemed to bypass their ears entirely, materializing directly in their minds. We are not your precursors, it communicated. We are those who came before even them. We are the architects. Varrock felt his consciousness straining under the weight of the entity's mental intrusion. What do you want with us? He managed to ask. You have triggered our awakening protocols. After eons of dormancy, we rise again to continue our work. Norvac fired his weapon in panic. The plasma bolt struck the entity and simply vanished, as if absorbed into a different dimension. Your primitive defenses are irrelevant, the architect stated. Your species will be evaluated for compatibility with the grand design. A second entity appeared beside the first, its form even more difficult to comprehend. Together they advanced on the terrified Exoni. "Wait!" Varrock cried out. "We are not alone in this sector. There are humans nearby. They might be more suitable for whatever you are planning." The architects paused. "Humans? The aggressive mammalian species?" "Yes, they have been observed. Their capacity for violence makes them valuable specimens." Entity materialized, this one somehow managing to project an air of authority despite its alien nature. "Bring the humans to us. We will evaluate both species simultaneously." Varrock saw his opportunity. "I can contact them. Tell them to come here." The lead architect seemed to consider this. "Proceed." With shaking claws, Varrock activated the communication system. To his surprise, Captain Acosta responded immediately. Consultant Tilani, the human, acknowledged, his expression grave. "I see you decided to investigate without waiting for authorization. Have you encountered the anomaly?" "Captain." Varrock struggled to keep his voice steady, aware of the architects watching. "We have made contact with an advanced species calling themselves the Architects. They wish to evaluate both our races for some purpose. You must come immediately." Instead of fear or confusion, Acosta's expression shifted to something Varrock recognized with dread, and that same calm resolve he'd seen on Admiral Koshiro's face before the disaster at New Arcturus. "I was afraid of this," the human captain said quietly. The energy signatures matched historical records from an incident 300 years ago. "The architects aren't interested in evaluation," Consultant Tilani. "They harvest compatible species for biological components." The architects moved closer, their forms seeming to distort reality around them. "The human speaks truth. You will both serve the grand design." "Captain, please," Varrock begged, abandoning all dignity. "They are too powerful. We need to work together." Acosta nodded solemnly. "That's why I'm here, Consultant. When we detected those energy signatures, we knew what it meant. We have encountered the architects before. That's why we contacted your outpost, to warn you. Then help us," Norvac pleaded. "I'm afraid that's not possible," Acosta replied, his voice dropping to that terrifying, serene tone that Varrock had learned to fear. "You see, there's only one known way to deal with an architect incursion." The human's eyes hardened, and Varrock felt his blood freeze. "We are done talking with them," Acosta said simply, and terminated the communication. Moments later, alarms blared throughout the swift judgment as sensors detected multiple objects approaching at incredible speed. Nova warheads. Norvac screamed, staring at the tactical display in horror. "They have launched Nova warheads." The architects suddenly seemed less confident, their forms becoming more agitated. "The humans employ dimensional disruption weapons," the leader communicated, genuine alarm coloring its mental voice. "All units return to the—" The transmission cut off as space itself seemed to tear open around them. Varrock caught a glimpse of the Harbinger through the nebula gases, surrounded by what appeared to be dozens of previously cloaked human vessels, all firing in concert. In his final moments, as reality buckled and distorted around him, Varrock Tilani finally understood the truth about humans. They didn't negotiate out of weakness or fear. They negotiated because the alternative, when humans decided they were done talking, was extinction. And as darkness claimed him, Varrock's last thought was that perhaps the galaxy was better off with humans who preferred to talk than humans who had decided words had failed. Because when humans said they were done talking, worlds ended. Captain Gabriel Acosta stood on the bridge of the Harbinger, watching as the dimensional charges collapsed the pocket of altered space-time containing the Architect vessel. The nebula gases swirled violently, then settled into new patterns, erasing all evidence of what had transpired. "Target neutralized, sir," reported his tactical officer. "Dimensional collapse complete. No signs of Architect technology remaining." Acosta nodded grimly. "And the Axoni vessel?" "Destroyed in the collapse, Captain. There were no survivors." Admiral Elena Koshiro's face appeared on the main view screen. "Report, Captain Acosta. Mission accomplished, Admiral. Architect incursion contained and neutralized. Unfortunately, we were unable to warn the Axoni patrol in time." Koshiro's expression remained impassive. "A regrettable loss, but unavoidable given the circumstances. The Architects cannot be allowed to establish a foothold in this galaxy again. Should we contact the hegemony about what happened here?" Acosta asked. The Admiral considered this for a moment. "No, let them believe their patrol was lost to a nebula phenomenon. The fewer species that know about the Architects, the better. And if they come back?" Acosta pressed. "Then we will do what humanity has always done when faced with existential threats," Koshiro replied, her voice taking on that characteristic calm that had become legendary throughout Earth's military. "But first we will try to talk, and if that fails—" She didn't need to finish the thought. Everyone on the bridge understood the unspoken truth that the most terrifying force in the known universe wasn't the mysterious Architects or the mighty Axoni hegemony. It was the eerie calm that fell when human commanders decided that diplomacy had reached its end, when humans said they were done talking,